on Tuesday, BSN Denver ceased to exist as we announced our new company name, DNVR. And because of this, we've got a special show planned for you guys with some new voices or new faces. On my left, I was going to go right immediately to my right. On my left, of course, we have Ryan Koenigsberg. We have newly hired Brendan Vogt. Then on my right, I have Adam Martis. And then Brandon Spano and Eric Weedham.
D-line. Good effort.
D-line.
Here we go.
We just met him.
We just met him. How's it going, guys?
Fantastic.
It's going well.
You told us you didn't want to talk over us, and then you asked us all questions at the same time.
I am excited to be on this show, though. This is my favorite sports invention of 2019, the Denver Sports Pod. It sucked to not be able to interact with it for the last month.
Especially last week when Juancho did not win the week. We'll go into that later.
Yeah, Harrison's fired, by the way. He's on probation.
He literally won a world championship.
He won a gold medal.
I'm like, yeah, but is that good?
Okay.
Let's jump right into the behind the scenes talk right here. I mean, while we're on here, let's put it out there. Me and Ryan meet with Adam about 2 months ago, and we're trying to get Adam to come to BSN Denver eventually, which would become DNVR, of course. And as we're drinking and talking and having dinner, Adam says, yeah, I mean, one of the best things you could do is if you had this all-team podcast, which we were already talking about doing, is you would have a segment called Who Won the Week. And this would be a great way for fans of each team to feel represented. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, it launches, and Adam's seeing all over Twitter votes for Who Won the Week.
I'm not even committed or anything. What the hell, man?
Adam just texts me SMH, LOL.
If there's one thing about Brandon, it's that he doesn't hesitate to act on ideas. So once it's a good idea, it's happening.
For sure.
So today we have a different show for you guys. We are DNVR, so we're going to be talking about kind of the process of the rebrand, our logos, Eric's creations, and all of that. So how about I have Ryan and Brandon kind of start on, as co-founders, why did we change, and why is this the new chapter and the new beginning for DNVR?
Well, I think you have to go all the way back to the beginning of this, and when Brandon and I
we're 40 pounds lighter.
When Brandon and I had our first meeting about this, the idea was always that Denver sports fans were underserved, and that there was such an opportunity to give them more, and that there are great sports fans in this state, and that they were just getting this basic level type of coverage, and we thought let's not only give them better coverage, let's give them more ways to interact, and we didn't know exactly what it was. We just knew that we wanted to create something dope that surrounded Denver sports, and it started as obviously more of a media outlet. It was more written content and that sort of thing, but the more we evolved, the more we started realizing that that we could not necessarily have to just be a media company, and that was something that we learned through the fans. And I think that's the coolest part about it, is we started figuring out, especially through the podcast network and that sort of thing, that we were reaching that we could reach them in different ways than simply just here, have this content, consume it, and then there's this big gap between us. And just through learning from the people that were consuming what we were doing, I think we started realizing that we were becoming something that we didn't even know we could become.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely knocked it out of the park. I think that the one thing that we really wanted to be from the beginning that we understood was that there wasn't an outlet there that was really created for the fans. You're talking about newspaper journalists who are anti-fan. That's the cool thing to be when you're a journalist, is being against the fan and making fun of fans.
Is that what Antifa stands for? Anti-fan?
Yeah, that's exactly what it means.
No, it does
not. No, yeah. I never know these things.
You should Google it.
Sports are our politics. So it was about finding these people, and this is what I always talk about, is there's amazing, and if you look at the people that are in DNVR right now, you're talking about incredibly talented media people that were and are diehard sports fans. They understand what diehard sports fans want, and the work is done out of empathy. The work is done out of understanding what people want and then serving them. Not done from, well, this is what I learned and this is what this is and I don't do for this and I don't do that and look at these dumb fans doing that. And that's kind of been the position. And that's how we started, and we started the team channels like that. Essentially, we saw, SB Nation, honestly, dominating with all these team-specific blogs, and we said, this is the future except done with real journalists. And obviously, as guys that are coming directly from SB Nation that I would consider absolutely real journalists.
I'd hope so.
I think that at the time, 2014, 2015, little different, and let's be honest, Denver Stiffs is not what the majority of SB Nation is, and anyway, we don't need to go on a whole SB Nation thing, but at the end of the day, the idea was access. It was 24/7, and it was to be done kind of in that nature. And then we eventually got into podcasts, and we created really the first local, and this is what people don't understand, like when we launched the podcast network in 2016, doing a show on every team, and by the end of the year, by 2017, every day, we were the only local podcast network in the country that was operating like a radio station, that was knocking out 5 days a week podcasts on every single team, delivering it in a traffic radio ad structure, like really making it work on a money level and on a listener level, so that fans could understand. And so, we kind of got these basics down, and we determined what this looked like on a scalable, like business level. Then we were really able to deliver exactly what the fans want, because then we started hearing from the fans.
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of differentiates a traditional news outlet from a podcast network, and ultimately what you guys have turned into, is that it's longer form. Podcasts are not like your radio. They're not just playing out of speakers in a muffler shop and you just sort of hear it out in the ether. A podcast is in your ears, right? Like the person that you're talking to, you start to develop a real relationship with.
For sure, 100%.
It's just a lot more intimate way to interact with somebody, because a podcast also, you always start at the beginning, you hear the entire thing, you don't just sort of piece together, you don't have to take times where you have to establish the premise of what we're talking about. It's like you can just have like a real conversation. And so guys like Ryan have a great voice, and Zach, and all of these podcasts that were, you had the goal that you wanted to be there every day, but then the bonus is that people like these guys, and they want to know them, they want to be friends with them, and it feels good to talk about sports in a way that's a little bit more unstuffed, and the way that you would talk about it with your friends.
Well, yeah, and let me just add to that, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Adam, because I know you're about to hop on real quick, but there's incredible talent that is out there, absolutely mind-blowing talent that is out there, that is working for different team blogs and hosting podcasts, and are creating incredible social feeds and followings. And I've talked about this before, but I find it just absolutely fascinating that they're not on the radar of traditional media companies that are trying, they tell us, to become digital, but instead hiring the same stuffy people, or and that sounds like a negative thing to people, but putting them in a box, hiring people and putting them in a box, and so you're, in my personal opinion, for me in 2019 to be able to come in as this local startup that is kind of disrupting the market, to come in and be able to hire an Adam Mares, it's like, it should not, like, there should be a threshold there that I can't get to him yet, because someone has already put this guy in that position.
He's also wildly emotionally unavailable.
Eric, hold on. I'm going to need you to scoot the mic a little closer, or get closer to the mic.
Well, then,
I like that you
people
scoot your
would hear
body
you.
and not the mic.
When you speak into the mic, imagine we've just criticized your art or your integrity.
So what you're saying is, when you want me to go and lock myself in the car.
Just
Tap
cry.
into that
Just
anger.
touch Craig.
Yell at me.
No, I think
Yeah,
so. Another
yep.
thing that you're kind of getting to, though, Brandon, because we all have enormous amount of respect, I think, for traditional journalism. I think that
Sure,
we
absolutely.
we exist in a different space, and one of those spaces is, it's funny, people always talk about, like, can you admit having some type of fandom for the team you're covering, and there's compromises you make when you do that, when you become a fan.
Absolutely.
The thing they don't tell you is there's compromises you make when you don't do that, when you try to be objective. It's not like
That's right.
if you hold that back, you can tell every story. When you connect with the fan and you're like, and there's something very cathartic about the Broncos are 0-3, and it's like, you know what, this sucks, but it sucks for all of us, and like I get to connect with you on that level about how much this sucks, and that's something that if you're just not a robot, but like a journalists, like real true traditional journalists, remove themselves from it and they can be objective. It provides them these certain things, but they don't get to say like, man, I feel your pain here. And that's the thing, that's where I think we occupy different spaces. And then to your point about creativity, what we really, really hope to do with DNVR is to really merge storytelling, which people have done for 100 years, more than forever, thousands of years.
It's been 100 years.
Exactly 100 years. It started.
For the past 58 years, people have been telling stories to
No,
each
but
other.
tell stories. But you know what? We have video cameras on our phone now. We have audio devices. We have motion graphics on our computers. We can do all these different things, and if we merge them, there's a million ways to tell a story, not 2 or 3.
Yeah, no.
Hold on. Before we keep going, I'm going to save the listeners. Guys, please do not hit the table. We're going to get passionate. We're talking. We're excited, but don't hit the table. Okay, Brandon, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, and I think I want to piggyback on that and just say that sometimes when I speak about where we are compared to traditional media, which I'm talking newspapers, radio, TV, it's not a knock on the people, but it is absolutely. I'm passionate about what we're doing. I'm passionate about digital in comparison to terrestrial. I'm passionate about that. I don't believe like these people that are running these companies understand it. I truly believe that. It doesn't mean that I don't think that the talent that is there that we are all friends with are doing an incredible job, because there's incredibly talented people there that would be awesome at DNVR. At the same token, there's people that are looked at as the absolute best in this market that would be completely useless to DNVR. It's different subsets, but at the end of the day, like, we're more or less talking about the industry and the transformation, and I feel like we're on the other side of the paradigm shift, and that's what I'm the most excited about.
For me, that's one of my favorite parts about this is we want to be taken seriously. We want to make an impact in this market, but I don't see us as necessarily direct threats or competitors to anyone, anyone in particular. We're trying to step in and fill a void. So we're not trying to say, hey, you don't do this well, we can do it better.
That's right.
It's just we feel no one's doing this. And I'm excited to dip my toes into that.
You know what's like so interesting is that you're saying declaratively that you want to be taken seriously, but this is the way you dress.
You can't even see my facial hair. It's not
But
focused.
also, like, not only that, like you're wearing sweatpants and flip-flops.
He looks way worse. Yeah, the bottom half below this camera.
I would like the brand to be taken seriously. I exist online.
Is there any way we can start this over without... Oh, it's live.
Damn it.
All right, Eric. Well, everyone, let's talk about how DNVR started. Why DNVR? Why is that the name? And that's it. It's not Denver. It's DNVR for the people who don't know.
I'm going to pull up our list. So we created a...
Oh, no.
You're gonna show.
You can't read these, man.
No, because I'm going to start at least 3 of these. There's more good names.
So there's a list here. You probably can't. I don't know if you can see.
No,
definitely can't.
Okay. I didn't know if someone was controlling the camera and could zoom in on me or whatever. But
You can't zoom in that close. The
Okay.
font's
So
small.
anyway, so we decided we were going to make a name change here. Actually, a couple months ago. It's been kind of a work in progress, and we all had a list of names. I had the longest list, I believe. Blaze, Eric's partner at D-Line, had the second longest. Eric had a pretty long list as well, but Ryan had a list of like 6, and they were all about the same. And they were the second one on his after the undrafted, which I didn't like, which everyone kind of liked,
I liked it.
was
that will be in existence tomorrow. Someone's
There you go, giving away my ideas for free.
was and just for the record, like pretty much every great idea for BSN that's happened has been Ryan's idea, and now that Adam's here, I'm pretty much just like completely useless. But DNVR was on, and I honestly looked over that because I was thinking that I'm going to tell you the one that I love. This should be semi-good podcasting, I think, at least to make a joke on me is. So there was this.
When you have to explain it like this, it's already.
I mean,
Yeah,
I hope this will be good content.
So there was this. Back in the Roman
my God,
times.
no.
Oh, wow. We're
I'm
going
not-
back.
I'm
We're
not
just in
gonna let you
context.
go there, Brandon.
Back in the Roman
No,
times.
Brandon.
Okay. Well, it was terrible. It was an old Roman name. I thought of names like Stadio, which is stadium in Latin.
Wow,
and
this is a very
Gaius
Spanish.
and Acta and Ludus, but none of them were. I really
Imagine
wanted
that on
something
the slide right
powerful.
now.
You know, I really wanted something powerful, but it ended up being DNVR. I guess that's the.
well, that I mean,
That is powerful.
Okay, you skipped
Oh.
a big step of
DNVR is really powerful, but I skipped. Well, so anyway, all I was saying was that I had a bunch of dumb ideas. We kind of looked over that one until one day when it was honestly like addressed between Ryan, Eric, and I, and it was at a Broncos watch party, and I don't know, there was something about the way that it was said. Was like, hey, I think this is it, and it kind of sounded like call letters, but it was also, meant Denver, and it was also kind of new age, and then Ryan, you can kind of fill in here.
Yeah, when I came up with the idea, I thought it was super awesome, and like you said, kind of everyone just kind of glossed over it in the Google Doc. But I think the problem is you have to hear it. You have to hear it to feel it. And it was actually a bar crawl. We were at Blake Street Tavern.
Yeah,
That was a great. We got to do one of those again.
Yes.
Gotta hear it,
And
feel it.
hundreds of drunk Denver sports fans walking down the street.
yeah,
We
and,
packed
By bar
those
3, it was a little
bars.
weird.
and after a few drinks, I think it just hit a little different when I said it out loud to you guys. I was like,
This brand
really?
is great if you're hammered.
Right.
It's different when you're 4 years deep.
I remember exactly how this happened. So I arrived at this bar crawl. I came in hot. I had already been drinking.
Eric's been known to do that once in a while.
I was coming in hot, and we were having the conversation about how like the best version of any video game is when you can just name the video game the sport it is, like football, or like anything that sort of just like takes it back to the basic of like what it is. And so we were like, that's why the Denver Sports Podcast is such a great name, because this had come into existence before we had decided on the name of the network. And we were like, it's so great, it's just so basic, and you really get the idea, and it feels like foundational. It's not, like 3 references deep. And then we were like, yeah, like Denver, like DNVR, and we had some Strawberry Sky.
We had a lot of Strawberry
like
Sky.
it just hit different.
It did. It just hit. I was like, guys, like
That's it.
I really like DNVR, and like
I'm
both
like,
of you,
this is it.
like if it was a cartoon, like the light would have finally gone on for both of you, and you were both like, yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, and then I think Eric even said, and like stacked, like DN on the top, VR on the bottom, and it was super deliberate. And then
I'll tell you what the actual genesis of the logo is that if you look at my logo, D-Line Co., and then you take the BSN logo and you put them together.
If they had a baby.
If they had a
Oh, there
baby.
you go.
And then those babies,
A
met,
child of
they
love.
had a baby.
And
Born of passion.
it was. I mean, I was coming in hot. It was passionate.
Born a drunken night at a tavern.
Yes.
DNVR was born on a drunken night on the tavern. That is absolutely right. It's so fitting.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
clean, and it's the state shape, and it just makes sense.
It also there's something cool about like KUSA, KTLV, whatever has to be west of the Mississippi or K, and then if you're east of the Mississippi or W. I like that this is digital. It doesn't exist in that old school world, and it's DNVR. It's like feels like that, but it's also like no, we're breaking all the rules.
It is. And once we saw the designs, that was the game changer.
Yeah.
Once we saw the branding, we saw this backdrop. This was one of the first things Eric showed us. We just completely, our hearts melted.
Yeah, well, and I'm from
Sounded really
Colorado.
corny, kinda.
I care a lot about the sports landscape here. I don't know why, but it is something that I feel like foundational. It's like I just like sports a lot, and I don't really know why. I just enjoy filling my time thinking about things that aren't really important, like whether or not Yusuf Nurkic is a bad guy. I mean, he is a bad guy, but like it doesn't mean anything in my life. But I like just having feelings of aggression or like anger or things that like that don't serve you in the real world, and like focusing on them on guys that get paid millions of dollars that I'll never meet, and like it doesn't matter. Right? So and I
Eric just explained every sports fan.
yes, well, I don't think people really think about like why they like sports, and people don't also think about like how you can really like sports in a healthy way that helps your outlook on life in general, because you can again focus negative feelings into a place that doesn't matter. But so it was important. So this ultimately, like, this was a passion project for me. This is sort of like the culmination of things I've thought about my whole life, things I, wanted to bring to Denver. I don't like Denver being thought about. It's like a cow town. I know that.
Must have hated my intro article then.
Well, I don't like things you write, and also I don't read. So it doesn't
Zero chance he read
Well,
that.
he didn't do an audio story on it, so
no,
you
I
couldn't even
I was out immediately.
Oh, I should do one, huh?
You should do one.
Yeah.
But so I started the company D-Line just because I like making T-shirts, and then at a certain point, Adam reached out to me on Twitter.
Do you remember how we met? I don't actually remember that.
Yeah, I do. Well, this is humbling. Nobody
Yeah.
remembers. No one knows my last name. No one knows
Eric,
I
I
remember
promise we
everything
love
about
you.
you, my love.
But yeah, you reached out to me on Twitter to ask about making T-shirts for the Nuggets, because I was making T-shirts anyway. So we met like in a formal way, and then the Nuggets did their jersey reveal, and it happened to be where I had been parked for the day anyway, like at the parking garage at the.
Oh, this is right.
A
I do remember
rebrand.
this.
How fitting.
That's
A
right.
rebrand.
I do remember this conversation.
rebrand.
We hit it off
And I was
right away,
like,
though.
And I was like, oh, there's Adam. Like,
Yeah.
and like people listening, that's like a person that you know who it is. Like, if you were to see Ryan, you'd be like, oh my God, that's Ryan. Like, I want to go talk to this dude. So
I do remember that day now.
So I
Thanks for
inserted
reminding me.
myself in a conversation like I've done in this conversation, and and then it's been love and hate ever since.
Yeah, mostly love.
Okay, well,
Real quick, I just wanted to say, like,
real quick.
it was crazy. I was telling this to Allie yesterday. Like, it's crazy how this thing popped into my head. Like, I was brainstorming ideas for the brand, and like this little DNVR popped into my head. Seeing it go from that just idea that came out of nowhere to this in like the wallpaper and the whole brand is crazy, especially in the timing and. I'm very appreciative of Eric, because I feel like he has this like wire inside of my brain where I have an idea and then he like takes what it was super rough in my head and turns it into this beautiful thing, like with the T-shirts, with the brand. So I love it.
I do have a wire in your brain. You should know.
It's good.
And I totally feel like I'm on the other side of that. Once he creates that beautiful thing, then he hands it to me and he's just like, please, like, make this a thing. And then we put it out into the world and put it on thousands of people, and then we just all high five together.
Okay, that's true. I want to move on to what is next for DNVR. Like, what should fans expect to see from us subscribers? So I'm gonna have Adam and Brendan kind of take over there. Why did you guys come to DNVR, and what are you planning to create and bring here?
Well, besides the fact that I just couldn't stand not working without him, I just like the second he left, the separation anxiety.
You want to talk about a true love story?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a lot of the things we talked about
contractual
before.
demands.
What Brandon and Ryan have outlined here in terms of wanting to build a community and a lifestyle more so than just a front-facing media company.
Sure.
Adam and I shared those goals. They were very important to us throughout my short tenure, his longer tenure at Stiffs. I think that's why we were hired, if I can speak for you.
Absolutely.
And so we kind of felt our heads butting up against a certain ceiling. As great as the Stiffs were, we didn't have the support and the backing of a company, a
100%,
CEO,
100%.
someone who believed in us the way we did in ourselves. And so for us, we just saw this as more resources to make the stuff we've always wanted to make. And why does that have to be for just Nuggets fans when we can team up with you guys and make this a Denver thing? And I'll close with this. I've said it a couple of times. Denver has never been more malleable. It's in search of its new soul as people like me move in every day. Sorry.
Me too, sorry.
But sports can play a large role in that. I really believe that, in shaping what's to come. So let's shape something fun, inclusive, and cool. At least that's it for me.
Yeah, so I'm like sharing secrets live on the air here, so it's kind of fun. But Eric had actually approached me sometime in like April or something. I think very drunk or something, and was like, "Hey,
Coming in hot.
And he's like, "Hey, man,
Drinks, that's the name
I
of this
think
one.
I think Brandon's gonna try to get a meeting with you this summer, man. You like just." And I was like, "Oh, really? Like, what's up?" And he kind of pitched the idea. So the real reason I joined here is because the three people at this table, Ryan, Brandon, and Eric, and
Not me.
I was gonna say.
well, because I didn't, to be honest with you,
Wow.
I didn't know
I'm
the
kidding,
rest of the
I'm
crew
kidding,
too well.
I'm especially not
And
a
it-
genius.
Well, it started with Eric, and I mean, we all have gotten to know him, and I think the fans have gotten to know him. Eric's just like such a beautiful and unique mind, and he's a fun guy to know, and I believe in like every time we collaborate on something, I'm like, dude, this is exactly what I wanted it to be. This is so cool. And so him becoming more, I think Spano saw the same thing and tried to steal him from me, and
I did. You threw an absolute
I-
fit.
you know what, I-
and ruined my entire fall.
And I'm like,
It's for the best.
But you know what? You were utilizing him in a way that I couldn't at Stiffs. You're doing even more. And it's like, that's really cool. So the first thing I was like, man, the idea of building a brand identity with Eric really resonated because I was just like, I know he's creative in the ways I want to be creative with this stuff. And
I agree.
and he, when he pitched me on it, he's like, you really got to get to know RK because he is like you, but Broncos. And I'm like, all right. So this is like April, Nuggets in playoffs. And I start reading Ryan and listening to the show, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to start trying to familiarize myself, prepare a little bit for what I'm going to do. And I'm like, yeah, he's right, dude. Like, Ryan covers the Broncos the way I cover the Nuggets. And it's like very personal and it's fun, but he knows his stuff. And like, it's just like, okay, I get it. I get what he's saying. Okay, so there would be me and Ryan, and we both kind of have the same vision and the same style. But Spano, I've met Spano a couple times, and everybody knows Spano is a pit bull. You're an intense guy. You're a very like
Pitbull's
you're
good. Pitbull's
you're
good.
you
Pitbull
can,
is Philip
Dollar.
Lindsay, so that's a compliment.
you can be
Dollar.
you can be like an intimidating force. And so I had some concerns. First of all, am I going to really be able to go there and be creative? Like at Stiffs, I get to do whatever I want in ways both good and bad. Like we had no support, but we also had no management, so it's like I can whatever I want to do, I get to do. And I didn't think I would work in an environment where somebody's like, I'm bringing you in to do my plan and to do my vision. So that was one thing going into the meeting I had. And when I went into the first meeting with Ryan and Spano, it was the opposite of that. It was like, we want you to come on not as the Nuggets guy. We want you to come on as a creative guy and help us just push the boundaries, be creative, establish the voice. And it's like the voice of the site will start from you and Ryan. And so like, just the willingness to sort of give up that control to me was like, okay, he gets it. But then also, I think of Eric in his first conversation with me talked about Spano as a ball of energy, and I think it's the best description. If you need something and you're like, I believe in this, you convince him and you say, do it, like he just gets it done.
Yep.
And
Oh, yeah.
He's so emotionally invested, physically invested, just invested in this company in a way that he is willing to sacrifice everything for it. I'm like, you know what? He has that plus the willingness to allow me and Ryan and everybody else on staff to do our thing. That's the perfect. I just feel like it's the perfect setup, and a month in, it's been the case.
And just to add on quickly, like Brandon works for all of us in Denver, all of us that are fans in Denver.
Yeah.
Like, he has an intense energy, as Adam mentions, but he points it in a way that is benevolent and makes change for all of us here. And so it's something to be appreciated, and it's the start of something here where we can really start to build something that didn't exist prior, and so you should be commended.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that, you guys. There's it's really amazing. There's a quote that, and if you work for me long enough, I'd say a bunch of quotes from people. But so sorry to bore you guys. But Steve Jobs has a pretty common quote that a lot of people know. We don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And I think I've always just felt like that. When we wanted to do merchandise, we went out and said, who's the best people that are doing merchandise? And we looked at a couple different. It was not a long list, but there was one that stood way out, blowing the competition away. It was D-Line. So we did I called Eric, got a lunch with D-Line, or DM'd you, right? Slid into your DMs.
I don't think that's what that
I don't
means.
want to talk about it.
Came in hot.
Eric
was drunk?
And literally, we got with Eric, and within
brand.
4 weeks, we dropped an entire line. 4 weeks later, with 8 products, I think, at the drop. And then we signed Phil and sold 5,000 Phil shirts before the end of the year, or whatever. So we've just, but that was just, Eric, like that was Eric, and so when it came to feed off of how you started this question, when it comes to Brendan and Adam, Adam did exactly on the stiffs what we were trying to do across the entire network. He was the maestro of the Nuggets community. You know, he was the leader of the Nuggets online community.
Without question.
And it was done in a fun level, an interactive level, not a I'm the stand on the stage breaking news guy, but an empathetic level. He understood them, they understood him. And then next to him was Brendan, who has one of the most incredible digital voices that you'll find.
Digital
And mustaches. And
Smile for the camera.
you know, his voice was just it sounds, you know, here's the one thing too, and not to go back to banging on traditional media, but you know,
Here we go.
but here it is. Here's
always
hand me
looking
the
for a
drum. But no, dead seriously, is people don't understand how important the voice is. You know. And you just can't find that. It's so hard to find, you know, and he's absolutely incredible at it. And it's so special of a talent. And so, you know, I can tell you this, they've came in, Adam came in and dialed up the Slack channel, got everybody on the same page of that.
Game changer.
Absolutely, completely transformed the company from the inside on a cultural level.
Wait till he gets those TPS reports.
You know, Brendan has, you know, completely lined up, hey, how this is supposed to look. And at the end of the day, I truly trust these guys and I trust everybody. And so, you know, I just let everybody go to work. And so it's really awesome. It's really incredible. I'm so happy to have you guys. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this, especially Brendan.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ryan.
I just had one thing to say in terms of how
Short,
Eric
please.
went from a guy that you DM'd about doing shirts to where he is and how important he is to us now. There's this weird thing that Brandon and I have talked about since like the beginning of we launched this, which is just like, I don't know like what it is, but good things just happen for me. And like you've said that and I've said that, and I've known Eric long enough now that he's 100% like that.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it just, good things just happen for Eric. And Eric also just does things and they instantly turn to gold. And
I
I feel
better about myself than I do.
I feel really confident about the fact that like if you just keep stacking people like that together,
That's
you create
so
like
awesome.
an
I love
unstoppable
that.
force.
And we're just going to
Poor
do whatever
Allie.
we
Oh
want.
my
goodness.
Because it doesn't matter, because we all run the company, so we can just make our own hours on this. But here's what I love too, you know, and because we could do a completely other podcast.
We could talk for hours about this, but we
about
shouldn't.
the energy around decisions, and I love that. You know, everybody here, there's an energy marriage here with everybody. And when I get with Ryan, when I get with Eric, when I sat down with Adam, you know, we were having mental sex. No, I'm just kidding.
Jeez.
Oh my God!
I wanted to throw this off the road. I just wanted to throw this off the road. I wanted to drive it off the road. No, but seriously, in this, the energy did match, and you're absolutely right, Ryan. Just the belief that, hey, we can make impossible things work. It works. It works. Deal with it. Deal with it. What do you want? Deal with it.
DNVR, here today, gone today.
I told you.
That's
It's audio clipped. The audio clipped a couple times.
Well, this is a live look, honestly, at what our office is like every day.
It's true. It's a loud office.
But real quick, for the people, I see a bunch of new people tuning in, and some of you have never heard of the Denver Sports Podcast. So we do normally talk sports, but because of our rebrand, we decided to have these guys in here to talk about that. We are going to go into some of our old typical segments later on. But what I was trying to get you guys to say before you guys went on to like a long tangent, that was very good and very informative, but we're looking to provide live streams for you, incredible video content with the manpower that we have now, which we've put out these video series with the Nuggets previewing the Nuggets players, and those have been so great. More podcasts. What other content things are we adding with DNVR?
Yeah, obviously, you know, live streaming is a huge point of that. But I think it's the nature in which we communicate with fans. And you saw yesterday in our first launch, there's audio clips that are really nice. They give you a visual representation and an audio representation of what happened on the podcast. That's every day on every channel. All of our digital elements, like if we do the $15 Nuggets fun thing with the fans, all of that.
Those are micro stories, right? That's what I call them.
Sure,
It's like
sure.
there's an article's worth of things that we'll put out every single day. Like we have articles churning out, but it's also like this is a little conversation. It's not quite an article, but let's have this on social media or on a podcast or on a video. And I think starting to think of the way you interact with fans that way is it's just fun and it's productive and it's 21st century.
Also, the conversations that go on inside this office are so awesome. Like, we want to take you guys in here as much as we possibly can, especially now that it's all beautiful and looks good and it's not just like white walls with foam board pictures of Emmanuel Sanders on it.
Do you guys see this bobblehead shaking? This is Brandon just like going
Energy.
crazy. Energy, I'm telling you, a ball of energy.
All right, speaking of energy, speaking of fun, I have a fun segment coming up involving rebranding and Denver sports. But before we move on, we got to talk about Total Bev's incredible 30% off deal that they're giving specifically to the DNVR family. 30% off your purchase of $25 or more using the promo code. I think we got a new promo code. We did?
I'm guessing it's
DNVR
DNVR.
2019.
Something along those lines.
Using that promo code online or on their Total Beverage app, they've got everything you're looking for, including CBD products. And if you get overwhelmed with hundreds of options, don't worry. Their incredible staff members will help you find exactly what you want. So don't forget. Yeah.
I was just going to say that literally the other day I went in there looking for a very specific Prosecco for my sister's engagement party. The guy, one of their staff members, went, and then he's like, "Oh, you want a whole box?" Not only did he go get the box for me, he carried it for me, brought it all the way up. Great staff there.
Yep. So don't forget to use the promo code for that 30% off. We'll tweet and post everywhere the promo code. I'm pretty sure it's DNVR. Oh, yep. DNVR 2019.
There you go.
Okay. So based on our conversations earlier, I want us to break down, maybe not as long, break down what was the best rebrand in Denver sports history. Now you look at Broncos and the Nuggets. They've switched things up around a lot. Well, the Rockies haven't really, and according to Wikipedia, they have not.
They've tweaked.
They've tweaked, yeah.
All they said with that they've changed is they introduced Purple Mondays, which the team wears purple uniforms every Monday.
They changed their unis.
Right. They're like originally their away uniforms were just like all gray. Then they went to a different style. They've had like the purple pinstripes. They've messed around. So they've just
Yeah, but
dabbled.
that's not a rebrand.
Yeah.
right. It's definitely not.
Okay, so let's start with you, Eric.
The best rebrand.
To be honest,
Go ahead.
I think there's really only one true answer. This we can talk about all the different
That's right.
rebrands.
Is your name
But-
Eric?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not even.
Go ahead.
But I want to hear it though.
But the best rebrand ever is the Broncos going from
Yeah.
the old uniforms to
Are you talking about the old orange or the old brown?
no.
The
Well,
mustard.
getting rid of that was an important start. But the point of this is the Broncos went to the uniforms they currently have now from the old, and not from a look standpoint, but they went and won 2 Super Bowls in a row right after they did that.
And what's
So
always
the
fascinating.
results is-
Here's what I think is really fascinating is that the rebrands with sports, oftentimes they come with a culture change as well. So you just see jerseys change, but that was a completely different. The Broncos go from the old orange and blue team that loses Super Bowls and is tough to play during the season and usually doesn't get it done in the postseason. They change it. They had just introduced a new stadium a couple years prior, and they just start their juggernaut that can't be beat, and they start winning Super Bowls. And I kind of feel like, and this is a little out of my context, but Brendan and Adam, but I kind of feel like the Nuggets, after the like Shaw era and stuff, getting into this, Malone comes in and then they kind of go with a rebrand there, and there's a new style of play. I feel like the Nuggets are a completely different culture now than they were 5-6 years ago too. But anyway, I do agree with your point on the Broncos, best rebrand ever.
And speaking of rebrands and success following right after that, Nuggets get Carmelo, they go to the powder blue, they go to 10 straight playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, same thing actually happened in '94. So they had the rainbow skylines, which at the time were not cool. Now they are.
So cool.
But they went to that navy blue, which I think was very like '90s cool. And, it was tough, and it identified like the Nuggets young core. Now they had a young core, and it was like sweet. These guys are. they're upending the culture. Of course, it didn't last for more than a year, but so both times the Nuggets have actually 3 times the Nuggets have rebranded now. They've reached the playoffs the season that they rebranded, so it's been kind of cool.
I mean, there is something to the idea of having a physical representation of a culture change.
Oh yes,
Rebrands in general, I mean, that's why it was really important for us to launch our rebrand to coincide with you coming, with Brendan coming,
Right.
to sort of signal that this is a new entity, this is a new voice, this is a new person, essentially. And so you should think of this as a different person. You should think of this differently. And that's why people do rebrands, is to sort of change perceptions in general. But I actually could not disagree with you more about the Broncos.
Thank you.
Seriously.
I hate this logo. I've always hated this logo. This logo is a prisoner to the time in which it was created. This is super.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Before I just get eviscerated here, I just was referencing
You're right about that,
the success
though.
of the
Yes.
rebrand, not the look of the rebrand.
Well,
But also the importance of that moment, because it did feel like when they lost to Jacksonville in '96, I was like, the Broncos are never winning a Super Bowl. That was our year. We didn't do it. We're never winning. You change and then you win. It's like, oh, all we needed was to like turn our hat around backward. You know what I mean? It's almost like we just needed to shake off the old orange.
Yeah, absolutely. But so yes,
salary cap
if you-
loopholes, but
Hey man,
But yeah, if you're talking about
lost in the history.
efficacy of a rebrand, absolutely, that's indisputable. If you're talking about aesthetics of a rebrand and the way that I have to see it all around town, on hats, on shorts, when it's paired up against Rocky's purple, when it's paired up against, and like, I just don't. I own lots of sports stuff. I own 0 things that have that logo. I love I personally love logos and brands that are rooted in a time that shows that the team didn't need to change themselves.
Yeah.
And like the Celtics, like the Bulls, like
Yeah, the Knicks don't rebrand because they're Knicks.
they're super classic, and you can tell that means they've been around from the beginning and they haven't felt like they've needed to change. Like, I love the new Nuggets rebrand because it takes in elements that feel old school and sort of hint to that idea that they've actually been around for 50 years.
Which they have.
Because they change their look so often that you sort of forget that that's that same team that's been here this whole time. So I love that when the Nuggets just rebranded, their uniforms in a lot of ways became more basic, which, older uniforms for the most part are more basic because you had to rely on an elderly woman to be able to sew your patch or whatever. And it wasn't just like you just printed it off, right? So like there were like actual real reasons that you made things kind of goofy or you made things like simple. And so, I mean, I love Maxi Minor. Not everybody loves Maxi Minor, but I also don't care what other people think. It's just wrong.
Which one do you like better?
I
The
like
Minor or the Skyline?
I definitely like Maxi. This is a prisoner to the 80s. Like, this is
Really?
80s, 90s. This also, for me, represents just absolute futility when it comes to Nuggets. Like, it was like the darkest era was represented by the brightest logo.
There were some
Isn't
good
that-
eras. There was good eras in there.
Isn't that a funny thing though about like nostalgia? Like everyone loves the Rainbow Skyline. Everyone loves the Broncos
Oh, yeah.
throwback
Oh,
D,
yeah.
and it's like, what? Like
Yeah.
we just like it because it's
Totally.
old.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
and I'm totally like it. Like
It's what
I
it
like
makes thinking.
I love that skyline.
Yeah.
I love the Broncos old school D. Like I think they both look better than the current stuff.
Yes.
But to that point, though, if the Nuggets rebrand, if they get Darko in 2003 and they just continue to suck, but now they're powder blue as they suck, it'd be like, yeah, that's not cool. Now we just have soccer.
Yeah, I think there's something to say about soul here, and I think that when you look when you look at that Broncos logo, it looks soulless.
It's more aggressive. They're going
In a
for
way,
aggressive.
though, it does look more like, hey, this is like corporate branded. I think when you look at the old stuff, and it might just be nostalgia, like you said, because you had a different connection with it at a different time. To me, like Maxi the Minor feels like it's almost nothing but soul. It's just the creation of.
Well, it's dopey. It's just like goofy and it's weird. It does like if you were going to if you were a boxer and you dressed it like Maxi the Minor and you had your tongue out and you were like, let's do it, like no one would take you seriously.
Right.
Versus
Right.
if you come in like aggressive, like the Broncos wanted to be thought of as like an aggressive, fierce force. So like that logo embodies that. So I like things that just sort of like are that take a step back and like don't impose.
So you like the Buccaneer with the knife
I like
in his mouth.
nothing.
No,
No,
but because that's '90s. Those are like,
or like the Patriot outside of the Patriots, but the guy snapping the football.
Well, that I think that falls more into the nostalgia
Yeah.
realm, like what Ryan's talking about.
Because
Like,
to me, those seem like really soulful, like real,
Yeah, because
kind of
the-
at a time where things were real and drawn by hand, and like
Totally.
like it's a real thing. You know,
I-
same as the D with the horse.
I got the real best rebrand. Nene Hilario becoming just Nene.
Oh,
Think of Nene Hilario. Like, you can't get behind that guy, but Nene,
what
no,
is
that's a star.
Do we know what is it about being Brazilian and being able to go by one?
It's
name?
dope. It's actually really cool.
Ichiro and Yao did it too.
That's true, but I mean, like every Brazilian footballer is like, what is it, Pele, and you've got
Ronaldo, Ronaldinho.
yeah.
Ah.
What is that? Is that?
I love his
what is that?
pronunciation.
Yeah,
I don't
Mine
know.
Or his.
His, not yours. Your
Nobody
friend.
like I forgot to apologize for the way my voice sounds. By the way, when this started.
I don't know. We have lots of Brazilian listeners on the BSN Broncos podcast, so maybe they can fill
Yes,
us in.
please.
It's a weird flex, but okay.
Yes, it's a weird flex. Shouts Brazil.
If you need anything in Germany or Spain or
Why
any
don't you
other
just name
country,
how many countries listen to your podcast?
Yeah.
while you're at it?
it's like 119.
Oh wow! Oh, that's no big deal. That's
How is that not all of them?
There's a lot.
I know.
I don't think we have Liechtenstein represented on our podcast.
I'm gonna use that.
Ryan's
that-
like Uruguay sucks.
I'm gonna use
I would
that,
never.
that recent Nuggets rebrand as an avenue to discuss another sort of aspect of rebrands, which is there were no Nuggets fans that were repping the team in Denver at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I moved here, the arenas were empty, but also you couldn't get a bar to put the game on. No
Yeah.
one was wearing a jersey. By the end of that last season after the rebrand, people were talking, people were rocking the new gear. And you go, okay, that's not just a Nuggets fan. That guy watches this team, that girl watches this team. And that was really prevalent. Like their cultural footprint tripled. And I don't think that timing with the rebrand is a coincidence there at all.
What about the Avs? They really haven't changed much.
Terrible logo.
Just
Terrible. Though.
Oh,
Same
come
thing.
on now.
No, you're trapped in nostalgia.
I am.
Objectively,
Two
it's a terrible
championships
logo.
just
If-
make the
and
logo
they're-
good.
They're,
It's true.
they're,
It's so true.
Their third
Rebrands
logo.
and championships, definitely two
Yeah,
different.
right. It's the perfume on the logo. But their new one that they have that's like basic. That
The
they put
Colorado
on,
with the
that they
C.
put on their third jerseys.
Yeah.
Like yes.
That's
all
why I
day.
have that jersey.
All day. Yeah, right.
But you have the thing about you, Eric, is you have a very specific style. So
Yeah,
you're
that's
right
right,
because
that's
you're
right, that's
talking
right.
about a very classic, iconic, almost minimalist style.
But that's what teams are coming to realize is that there's power in that because
Is
you're
there
not
any
trapped
chance
in
that
an
that's
era.
the era? But is there any chance that's this
No,
era?
no,
And
no,
like
no.
20 years from now, like man, it was just a triangle with a circle in it.
No, I mean there's the things that are true like persevere. Like
Okay.
you know, like there's
It's a
something
bold statement in
foundational.
2019.
That's true. What I just said will not persevere. But there's just something to the idea of, you know, like not. I don't know. Maybe it's the soul. Just something that like existed because it existed, and they thought to do it that way the first time. There's something real about that, right? And so like when it remains.
The Rockies are the one team in town that got that though, I think, because like the CR is just, I don't know, it's just cool. The
Well,
font, everything, it's just
Yeah,
it works.
That's
Simple.
like a baseball.
Baseball's good at being classic because they
baseball's
are
been around for
traditional.
goddamn
Yeah.
We all know who has the best logo in the state. It's the
Oh.
Buffs.
Oh my
It's the
god.
Buffs. It just
Oh my
is.
god.
I mean, Buffs is a great logo, great color scheme.
Great color scheme for sure.
it was CSU rebranding. Like, what is the orange, the green, the yellow?
Orange is a throwback.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Agricultural.
it used to be green and orange.
You know what's funny is that I grew up in Fort
Yeah.
Collins.
It's actually pumpkin and alfalfa.
Oh wow.
I didn't know that. Well, that makes sense because it's agricultural, right?
Yes.
It's that's what they're drawing upon. I don't remember a lot about the CSU brand. Like I don't like. Maybe I don't like logos unless I make them because I don't. Really,
We got to the real heart of it. I love how opinionated it is.
it's
It's
like
really-
maybe I'm just.
This is your version of traditional media.
Yeah, it's just a deep-rooted logo. I mean, but I really like what I drew for them. I really like. I don't really. It's funny. I don't remember when they rebranded exactly.
Yeah.
I went to CSU. I don't know. I don't remember.
The Buffs haven't changed their logo really.
I mean, they
They've
just
like,
like
redrawn
modernized
it. Yeah,
the
drawing
shape
Ralphie.
of it. They did one time add powder blue to their uniforms. It was very bad.
Ooh.
So real quick, let me ask you guys a personal preference when it comes to sports here. What do you believe in? Rebuilding amazing stadiums or or I should say, like
Updating.
revamping and updating traditional stadiums, old stadiums, iconic stadiums, or tearing them down and building incredible ones.
I mean, that depends on the stadium, right?
Like Coors Field can never be touched.
No.
Just keep.
I feel like
just keep
people
up-
felt like that about the old Mile High, right? Maybe
There-
even McNichols, you could say like.
But Coors Field, like I don't know. I don't remember going to Old Mile High very much, but like Coors Field, like the infrastructure is perfect. The way it looks is perfect. Like it just needs nothing except for just constant
Old
maintenance
Mile
and
High had
updating.
an energy that was just unbelievable that I don't think I've ever experienced anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think I mean, it really, like, again, it depends entirely on the structure itself, whether or not the structure itself
Yeah.
respects itself enough to be, to maintain and be.
Fans are also hilarious with this stuff. Like, this crappy stadium that we hate, they're going to tear it down? What the hell, man? That's our crappy stadium.
Right.
No, I think with baseball, it's funny you bring that up because baseball, first of all, it's a summer sport. The outdoor space is so important. And, like, Coors Field is dope in large part because you get to look at the Rockies while looking at the Rockies. You know what I mean? It's a great view, and it's just great, and it feels iconic and old, and it feels older than what it is in a good way. But basketball stadiums, football stadiums, modernize these things.
Yeah.
Technology changes so fast that something built in 1993 or whatever, or 2003, even though it's not even 20 years old, it's too old. You need Wi-Fi
No
in the
doubt.
arena. You
No
need
doubt.
the cool feature. You need like the new lighting, not the old. And so baseball can stay. Everything else, tear it down every 20 years, build something cooler.
I feel like the Broncos have done a good job at making like new adjustments to their stadium with everything we saw recently.
They have, they have Wi-Fi in there now. They have they have like a Wi-Fi box in every section, or like a transmitter or whatever you want to call it. They updated all of their concessions, so like you don't even have to deal with a person now when you go to get your concessions, which is pretty cool. You don't have to like wait in line. Like that's the number one reason I don't go to get concessions at pretty much anything but baseball is like you can't miss any of the action because it takes so long. You got to wait in line. They've done a good job of that. The thing about the Broncos Stadium, though, is I just think it's ugly, like, from the outside.
From the
I don't like the
outside?
shape of it. It's, like, too round and swoopy, and then, like, the retired numbers thing they did was just kind of thrown on there, and the stadium doesn't have, like, it doesn't feel powerful to me.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't have a presence.
Yeah.
Like Fenway Park has like a presence.
Yeah.
Going around to the stadiums and traveling with the Broncos, like, you see there's all these other, like, the Eagles Stadium, it's just like you see it and you're like, wow, like that's where the Eagles
That
play.
is right.
And maybe that's the difference because when I go to other NBA arenas, I'm just like, this is the Pepsi Center just like turned differently.
Right.
They're all the same, so that's why I say
Yeah.
update them.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. Does anyone have a last thought to add before?
Yeah, I just want to apologize for running off your time schedule and telling you it doesn't.
Allie
matter.
threw the pitch. She's just like, whatever, man.
Especially when I said deal with it, I felt really bad. I tell everybody, Allie is driving the Denver Sports Show. Let her run. Let her drive this. Let her lead it. Stay on task, and then I come in here and do that.
And then you're like,
So
you don't
embarrassed
matter.
at
No.
myself.
Okay. Well, I gotta tell you guys about our friends over at Green Mountain Dental Group. They're giving away a free Sonicare toothbrush. I can never say that word. When you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, it's seriously that easy. Just take care of your teeth. Check them out today online or call them at 303-988-0711 to schedule your appointment. And by the end of it, you can get a free Sonicare toothbrush. All right, we're going to have to move into our favorite segment, which is Who Won the Week. I'm timing you guys, and you have 60 seconds.
Nice.
So you're not allowed to go over.
All right.
But
So
first,
since
let's
this is just like a since this is just like a hodgepodge, can anyone choose anything?
sure.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. Well, wait. We have to listen to our favorite jingle.
Oh.
Andre, I thought you were gonna play it right now. It's okay.
Andre is like asleep at the desk over here. Literally sleeping.
It's okay. It's all right.
Do you want me to sing it?
Yeah. Do you know it?
No, you
No.
don't.
Who is the beast? I know that part.
Who is the least?
And who was the beast?
It's an awesome
Yeah,
Great
jingle.
content.
Next time, live viewers, we'll get that done for you.
Is this on
That's
Genius?
funny.
Who won the week?
Are the lyrics on Genius?
But yeah.
Broken down line by line. What does it mean?
This is what it
This
means.
one is about who is
The beast refers to the
Okay.
7 seals of the apocalypse. Wait, what?
So last week, I'm just gonna
I
say
didn't know you were a YouTube. Conspiracy watcher.
All right, last week, unfortunately, Avs fans took over and Mikko Rantanen's portfolio increasing.
That's so
beat
crazy.
Juancho Hernan Gomez winning the World
We're
Cup
here
for
now,
who
Adam,
won
it's
the
fine.
week.
Yeah.
We're here.
The other options were Joe Flacco
portfolio.
being the best QB Denver has seen since Peyton Manning, and Garrett Hampson playing well. But
Garrett Hampson's still playing well.
he is still playing well, and if Drew were watching this or were on this pod, he would have Garrett Hampson winning the week again. But
Garrett,
all right,
damn, son.
Wow.
Yeah, I could wrap this up. whenever you guys-
See, I was gonna go with Garrett Hamp Dad because he's growing up right before our eyes.
Oh, wow.
okay,
Masterful
Brandon.
move.
Oh, hold on. Let me get my timer up so I can actually. I may actually be able to like tell you guys to stop. Normally the guys finish right before, but you guys like to talk a lot.
You tell me when you're ready.
All right, go.
All right, this is really arrogant. The Nuggets won the week. Nuggets fans won the week. What's up? Harrison Wind, Adam Ryan.
Jeez.
Brendan Sutton.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Wow.
I'm saying,
Wow.
we're all in one
But
place.
That's a
he,
juggernaut.
He just
That's
said,
tough.
who won the week? I did.
I did.
Mofos.
No, seriously. I remember being in LA. I used to listen to you and Harrison before I moved here. If you guys had worked together, that would have been stoked. I know how dope I am, so when you toss me in there, it's like, wow, these fans are so lucky.
Man, this is a very
that it?
like,
You're
proactive
done?
thing to do, you know? Like,
You're done with 30
I just
seconds.
want to thank
That's all,
myself.
that's all I needed. 30 seconds.
Mic drop.
What's up?
Mic
Okay.
drop.
All right.
Nuggets fans won.
Okay, Ryan.
I'm not ready.
You're not.
Go with someone else.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
Adam.
Well, mine sucks even worse than the votes.
Thanks.
So, mine is, I'm going back. I'm breaking the rules. It's Juancho Hernan Gomez because he still is a gold medalist, and he should have got more play, and he should have had a champion who was arguing for him last week. Harrison dropped the ball on it, so here I am. Juancho Hernan Gomez, who was cut from the rotation last season, mind you, because he had been so sick, goes to the FIBA World Cup, is incredible. Maybe the third or fourth most important part on the team that won a gold medal.
Preach.
How is this not a landslide? This better be 90% of the vote, or this entire poll is tainted. He won a gold medal.
Okay, so you want people to vote for Juancho
It's
over
retroactive.
you guys.
It's a toss-up. I think you could go either way, but it absolutely he is still a gold medalist to this day. So and you know what? He has a week before training camp. I'm sure he is still celebrating somewhere. Juancho, a happy guy. He won the week.
Okay, I'm going to go next.
Finish before. Wait, no. I tell you to go and I start.
Okay, all right,
I
I'm
like
sorry.
it.
I'm ready if you want to come back.
Brandon's punishment.
Just make him go last.
Hey, he lost his opportunity.
All right, Brandon, go.
The Denver Broncos won the week here, and they won the week a couple different ways. They found an identity on offense. It's the first time I could say they've had an identity in 2 years. They created more yards per carry. They created more yards per play against the Green Bay Packers than anybody has this season, outside of some turnovers, which are fixable things. And I think, and coaches always look about what can be fixed. They looked really good. They were able to do some really good things. They had there was a bad call that pulled down a touchdown, and everyone can laugh, but guess what? This is a coaching staff that's coming in. They're trying to change some things, and I think that they are changing some things. It's going to be tough because there's old players that feel the old way about losses, and there's fans that feel the old way about the last couple of years, but I think these guys are on the right track, and I feel like they won the week.
Oh, you guys finished, but you talk so long
wanna-
in
I
all
wanna-
the
I
other
wanna-
segments, but you don't let
Sorry, I
me.
have time to come back and do my real one.
Brandon is an incredible salesman. Like, he's got that gene. You can't sell that though, man. There's no way the Broncos won the week.
fans
Broncos
will-
Broncos
found their
fans
identity
will
on
like it.
offense. It's scoring 14 points.
We're gonna look back. You can say
you
it like
win
that
this-
because that's the Twitter way to argue. You can do it like that, but you go back 7 weeks from now, and people are
Woo!
gonna say, "Hey, week 3, man, that was a turnaround point." You look at what the Broncos did. You look at some things they did schematically. You look how they were able to go 10-man fronts and run the ball and pass out of it and stuff. I'm telling you, it's gonna come back. Mark my
Okay,
words.
no, you don't get to rebuttal. Just letting you know, Ryan. Eric,
Oh man, I'm included in this.
Yup.
Who
Yeah.
won the week? I have been in a deep, dark digital hole for well over a week. I literally have no idea what's happened over the last week in the Denver sports.
That's also
scene.
true, yeah.
So I'm going to say the fans of Denver won the week because they have this new company that's geared towards them, DNVR. It's all about the fans. We are Denver. It means all of us collectively comprise Denver. And what's more exciting than people putting all of their life force into entertaining you? So
That's true.
we all won the week. We are Denver won the week.
2 of the 4 so far are us, and one of them's the Broncos. If Wancho doesn't win this, I'm gonna riot.
I'm gonna amend mine, but I'll let Ryan go first.
let's hear
it.
You might get it.
Ryan's really excited
he's
for
got-
That's
it.
it. I knew it.
Oh wow! Let's go. This one might win.
This is taking up your time, Ryan. It's your turn.
A worthy
definitely
challenger.
wants
This is
A
the right
worthy
answer. This is
challenger.
the right answer.
Mel
poor Wancho.
Tucker won the week.
I wish there was
again.
fog coming out from behind him right now.
I have the bobblehead that was donated to us by the Free Ballin' Podcast. Shout out. Mel Tucker, first of all, he wore shorts on the sideline like an absolute baller. Then he goes on the road to Arizona State and gets the Buffs their first road victory over a ranked team since 2002. It's something the last 3 coaching staffs in Boulder haven't done. And additionally, he gets the Buffs their first ever win in Tempe, Arizona with shorts on. With shorts on.
But is he disqualified? It took extra time for him to think of this.
No.
Oh, that's a great point.
Well, you interrupted him, first of all, but he finished with 15 seconds to go.
And he also had the best.
Also, you guys you're going to kill Andre. You guys were like normal, and now you're yelling. You're
Well, we
really
got heated.
passionate
We got very
about
heated.
this.
You know what? If Mel Tucker wins, I will be disappointed, but I will understand and accept.
So you have another one, Brendan?
I actually was going to do Mel Tucker.
You
Sincerely.
thought he wasn't going to do
You thought,
it?
yeah, come on, man.
Well, no. Then when he goes, I figured it out. I realized.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We'll be back next week for our regularly programmed show with all of our beat writers talking about all Denver sports. Don't forget to leave us a review, leave us comments, and we'll answer your questions, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.